Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for today's presentation, Beyond How Are You? We have Rita Robbins, President and Founder of Affiliated Advisors, here with us to present on this very important topic. Rita, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you, Tricia, and thank you to everyone in our audience for joining us today. Today's topic, Beyond How Are You, is really about how to effectively and meaningfully connect with your clients. You know, in the 26 years since I founded Affiliated Advisors, we've had only one mission. Our mission is to help our advisors build the businesses of their dreams while serving their clients with integrity, creativity, and compassion. And now, more than ever, in the most challenging times that most of us will ever live through, your compassion and your ability to connect with clients is going to determine the future growth and direction of your business. We realized at Affiliated Advisors a few months ago that this environment that we're all asked to live in, that we're all subjected to, with all of the unknowns, all of the unanswered questions, and all of the changes, demanded a different type of support for our advisors than we had given them before. And we came up with a series of webinars designed to exactly do that, help our advisors grow, thrive, reduce their stress, connect with clients, and expand their practices. Our virtual meetings have included topics such as business continuity, more important than ever in these times, technology tips, virtual prospecting, how to market when you're not in front of people, how to cut through the clutter of the enormous amount of emails that has increased in all of our inboxes. So I hope you'll tune in for another one of our quarantine series webinars, or go to our website where you can find a replay of all of them there. Beyond How Are You? You know, it is often said, may you live in interesting times. And of late, that quote has very huge impact. Every aspect of our lives has changed in the last 4 months. Our relationships with our spouses, our families, our colleagues, our clients, it's all changed. Not only that, but our trust in institutions has changed as well. A recent poll revealed that Americans are the least trustful that they've ever been of our government's ability to help and to lead us. Everything is different. 75% of American companies now have 70% or more of their employees working from home. I mean, this would have not even entered the realm of our imagination in January, that in late July, we would be spending, at least at our firm, our 4th month working from home. And in addition to your roles and responsibility as a financial advisor, it's highly likely that you've taken on additional roles and burdens, as have your clients. There are 50 million children in America who up until last month were being schooled from home. So that is a unique challenge and responsibility that adds to our stress and is all part of what we call the new normal. What happens under these conditions of the new normal is that we seek familiar and comfortable patterns and habits and almost transitional objects that we find nostalgia in. And that is why so many of us are reverting back to wearing sweatshirts and sweatpants and t-shirts and, the joke that we're all dressed professionally from the waist up. We fall back into the comfort of these familiar, comfortable types of clothing because we're deriving a real comfort from us. It's the same reason that so many supermarkets are out of yeast and flour. Many people, myself included, find baking extremely soothing, relaxing, and exactly what we need as we mourn. And it's interesting to note, and it's going to be important in communicating with your clients, that we all are indeed mourning. We are grieving for real losses, whether it's the loss of a loved one, the loss of life as we knew it. It can be a loss as simple as not being able to see your colleagues. It can be a loss as great as not being able to connect with your parents, grandparents, or children. So be aware that when people mourn, they're particularly vulnerable And this is not just an opportunity for you to bring comfort to them, but to truly instill confidence, trust, and a perspective that your clients might not have had before with you, which is to get to know you and know that you care who they are, what they're going through, and how they feel, and not just about their portfolio. So, just as we've fallen back into really comfortable clothing to wear, and just as we have now no longer defined work and home, but rather it's blurred into one, I'm going to ask you to think about what kind of communication comfort zone you may be stuck in. What are you falling back on that's the communication equivalent with clients of wearing sweatpants or a sweatshirt? Excuse me. So here's some of the favorites that we've noticed our advisors previously had been falling back on. The first one is data. Your job, although this is frequently misunderstood, is not information, but rather advice. So when you fall perhaps back into a bad habit of sharing lots of data, lots of charts, and lots of economic forecasts with your clients, you may be missing the boat on what they really need to feel that you care about them. Because I promise you, your clients are not going to remember exactly what your prediction of interest rates were, or where the Dow Jones was at the beginning of March, or where LIBOR was at the end of June. But what they are going to know is if you begin to form real emotional connections with them, and that starts first and foremost with asking very open-ended questions that allow them to tell their story. So that's why this is titled Beyond How Are You? That's one of the worst opening lines that you can use right now. Invite your clients to share how they're feeling with you by asking these open-ended questions. And here's a few samples so you can incorporate this into your daily conversations. What kind of day is it for you? Is it up? Is it down? What is different in your life today? How about, what have you learned about yourself in the last 4 months? How are you spending your time at home with your family? In other words, focus, listen, and really listen with patience, compassion, and a caring attention. Sorry. One of the most important things, I believe, is to do unexpected and kind of random acts of thoughtfulness and kindness. Every week, I start with 10 stamped envelopes and 10 blank cards on my desk. And every day, I send out 2. They're really short notes, and sometimes it literally says nothing more than, I'm thinking of you. And I mail them. And every time, virtually every time I've mailed these cards, people call and thank me. It's just not often that people get handwritten notes anymore. And how often have you contacted your clients just to find out how they're doing, just to connect, just to let them know that you care about them and not just their portfolios? Think about sending someone who's really lonely a bouquet of flowers to brighten their day. Don't fall back into these old patterns of communication and connecting by only sending a card on their birthday, or sending flowers only when it's an anniversary, or the usual expected kind of corporate gift at Christmas time. Be a little more creative, and it's very interesting the impact this has. MDRT recently did a study of 5,000 investors covering not only a wide demographic, but a wide geographic area as well. And 87% of them said that the most important reason for choosing a financial advisor was feeling emotionally connected to that advisor. And what's really important about this connection, and what's really important for you to remember as you communicate with clients, especially during this incredibly hard time filled with all these unknowns that face all of us right now, is it means that your clients know that you care about them. They know that you're listening to them, and they want to be heard. So let's talk about some things to really avoid. One thing I think we should talk about is never compare grief, never tell them a worse story, And always be prepared for something sad that's going to come up. And I would invite those conversations as well, because people are going through challenges of many different varieties right now. And you're being empathetic and sympathetic and a patient, compassionate listener is going to be more important than ever. So, in addition to what not to do when someone tells you that something awful has happened, is again invite more time for them to tell you what's happening. So it might be a response in forms of a question that sound like, what was the first thing that went through your mind that you worried about when you heard that you were being laid off? Or what were the first symptoms that you noticed? Or how did you know your dog was sick? What happens when we hear bad news is that we generally tend to want to say something that we believe is helpful, like, I'm so sorry. But actually what happens to our brains, and we're sort of hardwired about this, is that automatic knee-jerk response, the same way, the same thing happens when we say, how are you, is actually distracting. So when someone tells you something that's sad, please don't think about immediately responding with, I'm so sorry, but rather allow yourself to not be distracted with that auto response and invite them to share more of what's going on. And you know what? If all else fails, ask them, so what is one good thing that happened today? And I find, especially with children and family members, this has been uniquely helpful. I think it's important to keep in mind now, more than ever, that gratitude is healing and healthy and can really help all of us along. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to take some questions now.
Thanks, Rita. We had one question come in before our session started, and this question is for you. What is the most thoughtful gift that you have received, and why was it thoughtful?
Well, the most thoughtful gift that I received was on my birthday this year. And believe it or not, it was from my colleagues and our team at Affiliated Advisors. I live in New York City and have not been in my home since the middle of March. So it's over 4 months now. But even back in May, I was sort of homesick and lonely and really, mourning this life that I had before. And so we rolled into a regular Friday morning staff meeting, and everyone had photographs of literally of my office, which I hadn't seen in months, and my home as their green screens behind them. And so there were 8 people with balloons and photographs of my office and my home. And I was completely overwhelmed and delighted. It was just so thoughtful and so touching and so meaningful. And I think not just because they, my team knew that I was missing my home, but they actually prepared for this, and they did something about it. And it was really incredibly meaningful, and I'm never going to forget it.
That's great. I think that's a great testament to thoughtfulness not having to cost anything sometimes, right? And instead taking the time to think about what might help your clients. That's great.
Exactly. So thank you so much. And if any of you have any questions, or you'd like to have a more in-depth conversation about your particular situation and your practice, please feel free to call or email me. I'd be happy to have additional interaction with you.
Thank you, Rita, and thanks everyone for joining.